Alright, so I've done a couple passes. I've taken off the template bit and I'm working directly off the body now. It's feeling lighter now already. And what I normally do when I work around the end grain is if it's a little heavier amount of material I need to take out, I'll take a few light passes as I go and work my way gradually to my final pass. And then I'll obviously add a little bit of pressure against the bit. I'm working into the rotation of the bit. I'm not going with it. You'll have a greater chance of it grabbing and pulling on you. And what a lot of guys will do, or I advise you to do, is starting at the your top grain here, and this is the upper bout, upper rear, and I work my way down into the tummy tuck, and I'll do the same thing. I'll start there and work my way to the top horn, and do the same on the back. Excuse me. And one thing to keep in mind is to always keep pressure against the bit. You don't want it to be chattering and kind of bouncing off the bearing, because that's when you're going to run into the bit grabbing and causing you some headaches. So I'm going to do a little more passes here. You can watch it as I go. And you may think I'm going too slow, but I'd rather err on the side of caution and take my time. One other thing, or a bit of advice, you can take it or leave it, that I do when I come around this area here, that's going to give you a lot of trouble if you don't keep pressure on. You want to make sure you're in control of the routing and the router is in control of you. You don't want it to grab and pull here. You could get some nasty tear outs in here. When I come along the front of the neck drop, or neck pocket, and I work my way around, I'll continually come around. I won't stop at the corner and try and start. I could get tear out there as well. I like to keep going along the end grain and then come around the corner a bit and take it a little ways, or continue on. That way I reduce the chance of chipping. The other thing I want to be careful about with this body is, since it's going to be done in a walnut finish, the grain will be showing. So I'm going to want to avoid any tear outs like the plague as I work this body around. So I'm being gingerly cautious and really taking my time with it. And because I don't want to have to do any kind of repair work whatsoever on this one. So in the meantime, I'm going to continue on. Soon we'll have this done. We'll be ready to do the binding channel, and then we'll install the binding. Until then, I shall carry on. Okay, so we have the body ready for routing the neck pocket. I've already hogged out the majority of the material down to about 1/2 inch. That way when I do the final routing, you won't have any of these drill points on there. It'll be nice, clean, and flat. I will also, what I've started to do is I've introduced a slight ramp in the floor of the pocket. Not a lot, but I know a lot of guys find shims underneath their necks from other manufacturers, and having that little extra angle helps with the breaking angle of the string over the saddle. So I've started to do that with these the neck pockets. It's only slight. It's not a major angle that you would see on a Gibson style neck. It'll be shallower than that, but I do add a little bit. So I'm going to get the jig here. This is my template set up, lined up, and we'll get that going. So now I'm just going to check it for depth. Just going to zero my chronometer here, or my caliper. So I am fairly close. Just a little bit more. Okay, so with the thickness of the MDF, I have 5/8. Now I could take it a little bit more, which I might do, but I want to make sure I'm a good 5/8 at this part, because I do have that bit of a ramp happening. It'll go deeper as we come to the front of it. So I'm going to take it down just a touch, because there will be finish going in there and start building up in there anyways. Alright, let's check it one more time. So we're 21 30-seconds, which is a 30-second over 5/8. So there we go. Now it's on to the binding channel. Okay, this is my binding channel bit. It started out as a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch template bit, but I got a hold of a 3/8 roller bearing, replacement roller bearing, and this gives me an offset of a 1/16 of an inch, which is what I want, because the binding is just slightly over a 1/16. Gives me enough room to scrape down the binding. So this works perfect, nice and cheap. You don't have to buy anything special, any type of specialty tool. Just go to your home hardware, get a 1/2 by 1/2 template bit, take off the 1/2 inch roller bearing, put the 3/8 inch diameter roller bearing on there, and you're good to go. I'm going to get things set up for the table to do this, and we'll get that going. Okay, so we're getting ready to do the binding channel. I'm going to be slightly under my depth, or height I should say, just so that I can be sure I don't go too deep and then I run into having too short a piece of binding. So I'll do probably a couple passes here. Again, we're cutting into the rotation of the bit. We're not going to go with it, or else it could catch and grab and throw the body. We're going to be going in this direction. Because I'm not taking off that much, I'm not too concerned about tear out. As long as I take my time and watch what I'm doing, we should be okay. Now here we go. So here we have a start to a binding. It's not tall enough, but I'm going to be doing another run and getting it deeper. A good 3/16 to just shy of a 1/4 inch. I measured my binding strips and they're just shy of a 1/4, so I want to make sure that I'm good there. At least I hope, I think this body gets double binding. I can't remember now. Yeah, it does. Okay, so we've got a good start on the binding. I'm not too worried about the burn marks because it's going to be covered with binding, of course. And I'm going to continue on the top side, and then I'll double check my height, and then I'll take some more. I'm not too concerned. Usually without a binding you round off the edges of the start to the neck pocket, but because we're coming straight through with the binding, I'll do the binding cut first before I do any cleaning up here. But that's as easy as it is. It doesn't take a lot of time, as long as you're prepared and have the right tools. Everything should be fine, and that you're actually supposed to be putting a binding on the body you're working on. Could you imagine if this wasn't supposed to get a binding? Someone would get a big surprise. Okay, I'm going to continue on, and I will show you the final result. Okay, here we have the final and finished binding channels done. You can see here I just need to clean that up a little bit. both sides. Everything seems to be equally to depth. And now usually I do the bindings after I've pretty much got the finish done, because I do a lot of dye toning directly to raw wood. Because this is alder, I'm going to be doing a toned mahogany finish on this, so I'm going to be applying the installing the binding actually before I do that. The next step will be cleaning it up, sanding it, getting it ready for the binding. I'll apply the binding, and then I'll be adding my sanding sealer, shellac, water-based shellac, and then we'll be going on to toner coats. So this will be, the application will be slightly different than what I normally do, so we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, there we go. Sorry for the shadows. It should look really good. I'm using a cream or ivory binding. I have bindings right here. Nice light cream with the mahogany is going to look amazing. There you go. I hope that was informative and helpful for those that are working on their own little projects, and we will move along.